So in my last video, we talked about meter and time signatures, and I showed you this cool little chart that helps us describe about 80% of our music, at least Western music. If you haven't watched that video already, you should go back and watch it, because if you don't understand that, what we're going to talk about in this video might be a little bit above what you're ready for. Today we're going to be talking about irregular time signatures. That means time signatures like 5/8, 7/8, 9/4, any of those weird time signatures that don't fit into our neat little box. This is where music gets kind of funky. Now, meters are usually pretty predictable in Western music. We use 4/4 a lot, and if we're not in 4/4, we're in 12/8, which is basically 4/4, but it has a compound feel. Or we're in 3/4 or 2/4, but everything's pretty predictable, and we have evenly spaced beats with strong beats and weak beats. It's pretty hard to find music that doesn't fit into these neat little boxes. However, when you get into other types of music, non-Western music cultures, you actually find quite a lot of irregular time signatures. If you go to the Balkan part of the world, for example, Turkey, Hungary, Romania, those cultures actually use odd time signatures quite often. And by odd, I mean 5 or 7 or 9 or 11. Those odd number of beats that are grouped together into a measure. In India, their traditional or classical music uses its own system of rhythm, which is called talas. And those talas often use odd numbers of groupings for their beats. So these irregular beats or these irregular meters are not uncommon, not really. And even within Western music, we use irregular beats quite often. You're going to find them all over the place in all different genres. It's in jazz, it's in pop, it's in rock, it's in Broadway, it's in film. Basically any genre you name will probably have an example of irregular meters somewhere. Okay, so let's go back to the basics. We need to understand, what is meter? Meter really comes down to the pulse of the music and the subdivisions. It's all about what we hear, what we feel, and what we experience in music when we listen to it and when we perform it. It's what are the beats and how are they grouped and how do we feel the subdivisions within those beats. So when we're in a simple meter, all of the beats are going to have subdivisions of 2. So you're going to have your steady beat, and then each one of those beats is going to be divided into 2s. So like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. A compound meter will have subdivisions of 3. So our steady beats will be divided into 3s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In irregular meters, we're going to have a mix of these 2s and 3s. So some beats will have subdivisions of 2. Some beats will have subdivisions of 3. Might sound something like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now you might hear that referred to as the long beat and the short beat. The long beats have 3 subdivisions and the short beats have 2 subdivisions. So let's use 7/8 as our example. In 7/8, you have 7 eighth notes, but that's not really the beat. You don't have 7 beats in your measure. What you have is usually 3 big beats, and each one of those beats is subdivided into smaller beats, and those total 7. So you could go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or you could go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or you could even do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Or you could even do a mix of that. You don't have to stick with the same pattern, but most music in 7/8 is going to stick with one of those 3 patterns. Now that means we can actually fit these irregular meters into that chart that I showed you before. We just have to add an extra column. So if you look at this chart, you have your simple right here, your compound right here. Now we're going to add a 3rd column, and that 3rd column we're going to call the mixed column or the irregular column, meaning that we aren't just sticking with subdivisions of 2 or 3, we are mixing them up. So with 7/8, we can put that in the triple row because it is a triple meter. It has 3 big beats within each measure, but then we'd have to put it over here in this 3rd column, the mixed column, because it's not just simple, it's not just compound, it's a mixture of both. We could even define how we're organizing that mix of 2s and 3s. We could call it a 2 + 2 + 3. Now, depending on the musical context, depending on how we feel and organize the music, we actually could put the same time signature into different boxes in our chart, depending on how those beats are organized within the context of the music. So to show you how this works, we're going to look at 3 different songs that are all in 5. They all have 5 big beats within the measure, but they're going to organize them very differently. So we're going to start off with Mission Impossible. So the theme for Mission Impossible is in 5. It's a 5/4 song, but it's not grouped in 5 beats. It's actually more like a 4. So let me play it for you. It goes. So you can hear that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So the second movement from Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony actually is also in 5. It's a 5/8, but it does not have the same feel as that 5/4 from the Mission Impossible at all. Not even close. So let me play that one for you. Still in 5, but it doesn't have that 4 feel. It actually feels almost like a waltz. It almost feels like we have maybe 2 beats in a measure, and we're organizing it by 2 and then 3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And it gives you this feeling like you're waltzing, except for not quite. It's actually a really cool piece and a really great use of 5/8. The last example I want to give you here in 5 comes from the show Matilda. So the musical Matilda has this character in it named Miss Trunchbull, and she has a theme that goes like this. Again, it's in 5. It's a 5/4 example, but this time it actually feels like 5. Like each one of these beats is heavy and gets its own weight. So on our chart, we'd have to add another layer, another row at the bottom after our quadruple. So we have our duple, our triple, our quadruple. We'd have to add another layer here that says, hey, this is actually in 5. There are 5 big beats and each one is divided into 2s. It is a simple meter in 5. Okay, so as someone who has grown up on our 4/4 time signatures, why would you even want to go into these irregular time signatures? Why bother? Why use them? Well, let's look at some examples of composers and why they have used them and what they've used them for. Now, we've already talked a little bit about the Balkan tradition and the Indian tradition and how they are just steeped into their culture. But for somebody who's from a Western tradition, a Western music tradition, why would we use these? Well, if you're coming from a culture that only uses 4/4 or very frequently uses 4/4 time, and we're used to these steady, regular pulses and beats, then using an irregular pulse is going to throw off the listener. It's going to make you feel somewhat uncomfortable. And so for a composer who's writing for film or maybe for Broadway, you might want to use these irregular time signatures to express emotion or a concept that maybe is uncomfortable or feels wrong. So if we go back to the Matilda example from before, Miss Trunchbull is the villain. She's awful, she's cruel, she's more than just a little bit crazy. And so to have her theme be in 5/4 gives you that sort of foreboding, dreading, uncomfortable feel that her character gives to you. Other composers have used that same idea. If you look at the music from Lord of the Rings, most of it is very regular, very 4/4, very triumphant for a lot of it. But when you get into the evil orcs and the Uruk-hai from Isengard, Howard Shore goes into 5/4 and 7 and gives you these irregular time signatures that make you feel uncomfortable. They make you feel like something's wrong, because it is, because something is going wrong. These are not good people. These are the villains. In other contexts, having an irregular time signature can create a feeling of excitement and anticipation or suspense or drive. So for example, if you look at I Am the Doctor from Doctor Who, it's written in 7 and it has this very driving beat that keeps going forward because you never get that sort of completeness that you would get from a full 4/4 measure. It's just a little bit shy of that. And so it helps drive you forward and creates that sense of excitement and suspense. You get that same feel from the Mission Impossible theme or from Hans Zimmer's 160 BPM from Angels and Demons, which is also in 7. You might also choose to use an irregular time signature just because you like it, just because you like the groove. Just because the beats aren't evenly spaced out doesn't mean they don't groove. They do. And actually these irregularly spaced beats can groove really hard and they can feel really nice. They can be very danceable. For example, you might look at Dave Brubeck's Take 5. It's in 5. It's very much in 5. But it is a groove. It feels nice. It's really catchy. Or you could look at Pussy Wiggle Stomp from the Don Willis Band. Or you could look at Money from Pink Floyd. Or you could go with 2 + 2 = 5 from Radiohead. There's all these different songs that use these irregular beats just because it's a cool groove and it feels nice. It feels good as a listener and as a performer. So if you want to start using irregular meters, if you want to perform them better, the first thing to do is listen to them. Listen to a bunch of different music. Maybe go to some Balkan style music. Maybe listen to some traditional Hungarian music or some traditional Turkish music. Listen to it and feel how do they use those long and short beats. The more you listen to this music, the more you're going to internalize it and the more you're going to start feeling it and being able to groove with it. If you missed my last video on meter, you should definitely check that out and make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any future videos. We'll see ya.